Are you a wealthy and successful individual? An esteemed gentleman or lady, for all three of you that watch the channel, that's worked hard their whole life to earn that wealth you're unapologetically proud of? Does your existing watch collection already feature several Rolexes? Perhaps your watch box is worth well over 100k. If your answer to all of the above is yes, then watch out. These guys are coming for your money. Welcome back, I'm Vinny, a watch dealer trying my best to clean up the reputation of the grey market. Wish me luck. Now, times are tough, and even those more privileged viewers of the channel with sizable watch collections of hundreds of thousands of pounds are being more savvy with how they spend their money right now, and naturally that means cutting back on your addiction. Many of you are keeping well away from the secondary watch market, perhaps even lost money on the market downturn, so are quietly waiting for those turbulent times to pass. And that is a lot of you. That anxiety and hesitancy to buy is very real amongst even the wealthiest of my clientele, and I'm hearing almost every day, well, I'll wait until that Rolex falls even more to buy it. Problem is, for most of us, we get bored of wearing the same watches and rotating the same collection and have to fuel this addiction, and that's why we're always on the lookout for that next fix. So buying was a no-brainer. Fast forward to today, and of course that situation has changed considerably. So the question is, how do we get that next fix without actually losing a ton of money? This is where brands like Christopher Ward, Longines, Tag Heuer, Tissot, and even Citizen enter the frame. They have all in their own ways identified that under the £3,000 price point there is now a market for winning over wealthy die-hard collectors, or watch snobs in other words. Now look, I am a self-confessed watch snob. I've got several Rolexes in my own collection and other pieces there as well, which I'm very proud of and humbled to own. For me, there is, as an enthusiast, there is a big difference between a watch which is great for the price point and a watch which is great full stop. Watches that are marvels of innovation, fantastic in terms of design, fantastic in terms of finishing, have a great story or history behind them, that regardless of what price point in the market they sit at, they're a great watch full stop. And those are the pieces that I think brands like Christopher Ward and Longines have identified that collectors like myself, die-hard watch snobs, actually appreciate, and it doesn't matter what the price point is. And that brings me smoothly on to the first brand I'm going to talk about, and that is Christopher Ward. Now, my first experiences of Christopher Ward was back in 2018. I was catching a Ryanair flight to Italy, and I remember opening up the in-flight catalogue, and obviously there's usually a load of crap watches under £200–300, which, you know, I always have a look at really just out of interest and humour. Now, I remember seeing these Christopher Ward watches that were around £400–500. They were partly Swiss made, but British design. I remember thinking to myself, I've heard all of this before. Wow, that's a crap watch. And I've got to be honest, they didn't look great, and back then they didn't. Now fast forward to today, of course Christopher Ward have come a hell of a long way. Now they brought out recently, it was about a year ago, the Balcanto, which if you're a viewer of the channel and you're an enthusiast, you'll know all about. This is an absolutely revolutionary watch for the watch industry. It is a piece which packs in a hell of a lot of innovation and a movement and complication that usually would have been associated with high horology brands like Patek Philippe. It's a similar complication to the minute repeater. Actually, it's a 60-minute chime. We don't see this on any pieces at the entry point, certainly not any watches which are Swiss made. And then you just take a look at the beauty of this watch. It is phenomenal. So there is no surprise whatsoever that this was the first watch that really caught the attention of enthusiasts or snobs like myself for as little as £3,195 for a watch which, as far as I'm concerned, is almost high horology. So what is there not to like about this watch? Now, my biggest issue with this is Christopher Ward entered the frame as a Swiss brand that was accessible. Yes, it was a kind of an entry-level price point, but packing a lot of bang for buck. The problem is you can't buy one of these Balcantos until May 2024. You actually pre-order one and have to put down a £1,000 deposit. So basically you pay all of the costs to Christopher Ward to make that watch for you. You'll be waiting 10 months until next year to get that piece and pay the subsequent £2,195 to actually get the watch. Now, would I have bought a Balcanto if I could get one 3, 4, 5 months ago? Yes, of course I would have done. Do I want to be sitting on what is essentially a wait list? No, I don't. I don't want to be putting £1,000 down and to have to wait that long. They call it a pre-order, but at the end of the day, it is a wait list. Now, speaking of wait lists, there is another fantastic watch in the Christopher Ward collection. They've only just brought out about 2 months ago now, and that is the 12. I've had the privilege of actually trying one of these watches on, owned by a friend of mine who is an esteemed collector in his own right. You know, he owns a Patek Philippe Calatrava, he's got Audemars Piguet Code 1159, alongside several other Rolexes. He pulled the trigger on this Christopher Ward the 12 when it initially came out, and I've got to say my impressions of the watch was it was superb. Not just good for the price point, and it completely knocks the socks off the Tissot PRX, which was a great watch for the price point, but this is, in my opinion, a great watch full stop. Now, not so much the steel version, which is priced at £1,050. That comes with a Sellita SW200, which isn't cost certified. I would actually make the upgrade and go for the £1,595 titanium option with a Sellita SW300 movement, which of course is cost certified, so it keeps good time. There is a very high level of finishing to the bracelet and to the case. Now, on the case and the bezel in particular, there is actually 3 different types of finishing. So you've got high polish, you've got brushing satination, and you've also got a sandblasting or bead blasting finish. 3 different finishes combined into a small space on that bezel is fantastic. But what's more fascinating for me and what's more revolutionary for £1,595 is that they actually carry over this level of finishing exactly the same as the steel version on the titanium version. Now, if you'll know anything about titanium, you'll know it's absolutely much harder to work with. Titanium is a softer material, but has a much higher melting point than steel. So therefore, the machinery that is required to finish and work on titanium is more expensive and it takes longer. They could have easily copped out on this and just done one finish on the bezel of the titanium version, which is something that we see on the Omega Seamaster 300M, the James Bond. It was completely brushed on the lugs, the case, which isn't usually what we see on a Seamaster. So Omega themselves, this is a watch that was priced at £9,900, copped out with only using one type of finishing on the case of this watch. Speaking of wait lists, this is another Christopher Ward that you can't buy. So once again, they've done really well to attract the entire wider collector community in general. Yeah, I can't buy one until November 2023. The next watch I'm going to move on to talk about is the Longines Spirit Zulu Time. Absolutely superb, fantastic piece. I was very much interested in this watch when it was a 42mm, but at 42mm I've got medium-sized wrists. It isn't a watch that I could pull off. A couple of weeks ago, Longines actually answered the demands of die-hard watch collectors like myself and brought out a 39mm version. This watch really is a really compelling and complete package that you would want from a luxury watch, which some brands don't even offer. You've got a quick release function on the bracelet and the strap options, on the fly adjustment on the leather strap option, which I've never seen before, as well as a true in-house GMT Longines movement. The movement is cost certified. certified, and even the thickness of 13.5 millimeters makes an absolute mockery out of the Tudor Black Bay Pro, which is a hell of a lot thicker and almost unwearable, priced at retail just under £3,000. Given everything that you get there, specification wise, design wise, quality wise, and real history as well, is a fantastic package. Now let's talk about the waves that TAG Heuer are making on the market. They've recently released the brand new TAG Heuer Carrera at Watches and Wonders. I had the privilege of being there and visiting their booth. Their booth was one of the best looking at Watches and Wonders. They made a tremendous effort to capture the enthusiasm of the people visiting the show. They've brought out this really beautiful looking 39mm chronograph watch, TAG Heuer Carrera, which is, I think, almost perfect in design, throwing this watch at the die-hard watch collector and enthusiast community, which is something that TAG Heuer really haven't done before. You know, they've always been the sort of flag bearer of the entry-level Swiss segment. That's how I got into watches. They upped their game just a couple of weeks ago and brought out a special edition version of this Carrera with the TAG Heuer Carrera Skipper. Now this is reinterpreting the dual counter dial of the Heuer Skipper, which is a vintage piece. It is a sailing edition sports watch, striking a blend of teal, orange, green and blue on the dial. It's absolutely original in terms of design and is absolutely a watch I would be very much interested in buying. And then I looked at the price, £5,950 for a TAG. I don't know what to say to that. That is a watch which is at the level of, you know, even Omega are pricing Seamasters under that price. They've done really well in creating a design and a package and a marketing campaign which really catches the eyes of collectors, and that's because it's all-rounded, really well thought out remake of an original. Now it is an in-house movement, which was a new release at Watches and Wonders on the Carrera. It isn't based on any ETA or Solita movement with an 80-hour power reserve. For the price point, because it's in-house, you know, they need to recoup their research and development costs, which explains really the high price on this. But I would have been perfectly satisfied if this came with a ETA or Solita based movement that was cost certified and they offered this watch under the £3,000 price mark, and I would have pulled the trigger on it by now. With people being savvy about how they spend the money, I sadly don't think this watch will sell quite as well. Citizen have started to foray into the luxury watch game with what they call the Citizen collection, really tapping into that enthusiast of Japanese watches, Grand Seiko watches, and I thought, oh, this is great. This is an opportunity actually for Citizen to offer a Grand Seiko like Japanese finished quality watch for what surely will be a cheaper price. And if they'd have done that, you know, if this was a watch which was under £3,000, I would absolutely be considering it. But again, it isn't. You know, this is a $6,000 watch. I look at this piece and I think, you know, that is a great watch. It's a great watch in its own right, but it falls short once again on the price point. So who is leading this battle at the moment? It is Christopher Ward and Longines, I would say. I think there'll be other brands that will be entering this new market as the months roll on. But what do you guys think? Have you been tempted by any brands that you would have considered before to be entry level and you wouldn't have touched with a barge pole? Thanks very much for joining me this week. Please go check out beatthewaitlist-watches.com and also go check out our sister company StadiFRAMES. If you're a football fan, that is at the link stadiumframes.com. Until the next time, take care.